incremental design, but first things first. Let's talk about pride. You see, I'm a person who pretty much has thought all through his career that pride is good. I mean, pride makes me try to strive for excellence. If I do things well, people are going to benefit. Or so I thought. And it turned out I was wrong. See, there are different aspects to pride. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. And my talk about incremental design today is about allowing you to be proud of the good things. You won't understand a thing if I won't show you an example. I used to be proud of this. Rebecca said that I'm a user interface designer. Now, some of you may think that user interface design is about learnability. You're wrong. It isn't. User interface design, to me, is about efficiency. And that means that if you can do things with ease and power and speed, then you're going to be happy as a user. So if I enter a project where the existing system just sucks because it has so many steps, I know I'm in the right place. And so this system, which was built, ironically, by us, by Reactor, it was a kind of a child of, you have this bid for tenders and then this kind of shit, which a specification, and I think the word specification, dark clouds arrived from the horizon, which was done to the point, which is even worse. And then things just turn out not so good. But let's see how it works. I have to fill in just a small detail about what the user is trying to accomplish with the system. They're trying to plan the lectures given in a kind of university-like environment for the next year. So this is a kind of an administrative person for teachers who's trying to decide what courses to give at what parts of the semester by which teachers. And look at the existing system. This is, by the way, the display where we are going to, where we want to go, but okay, I'll just show you. It's not that easy. Before I start, one thing. Efficiency is easy to understand, because what you can do is you can just look how many clicks, how many changes, how many slides I have to pass through. You don't even have to count. There are so many. So it's in Finnish, but no matter, you just get the feeling. So if I start with this screen, but we're going elsewhere, but you have to do a selection, a search, enter some search criteria, press search, do some selections, search, search, some teachers, search, search, and select some, and then you press the search, and then I've chosen these, and then you press search again, and there's one choice more. And now we're on the screen. Okay, good. But we're definitely not ready yet, because this is the screen where we were aiming at, but now we want to kind of instantiate one of those rows to a course which has a teacher. And that's going to take a while. So press a button, select some dates there, and there are some phases to do. Select some more dates, and then a person, do some searching, select, save, And then you have to press it again, actually, to do some other things. And then you just enter some data, the lectures, select some dates, and more dates, and this just goes on and 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 on. And it's not ready yet, but soon, 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 there we go. One course. One. Do you know how many courses they have for just this one person to plan? I'd say something about 150. So it's kind of, I think you can imagine that this was a place for improvement. And after some negotiations, we were able to do a second trial. The reason why this went wrong was that because we didn't know what they do with this software. We just followed the specification. That's always a recipe for disaster. But next time, we went to see them. We went to look at what they did for their work, and we knew it, and we came up with a different design. And when you start the software, it looks like this. You just go to the main screen. There's no selection. I mean, okay, yeah, perhaps there was a selection when you open it for the first time, but it's kind of the same. So you go for the first screen, and then what do you do? Well, actually, you could do several things, but I've saved I just want to show you this one thing. Now, there on the left-hand corner, there's a button. It's in gray. Well, the graphics aren't that fancy, but okay, you can just understand it's a button. And the next slide is what happens when you have pressed that button. Notice, by the way, that there's a budget of about 400,000 euros and so on the top. And then you press the button, and guess what? The budget is gone. Because you just created about 150 courses with a teacher, with the lessons, with all the stuff that matters. And how? Well, it turned out that the last year is the best guess for this year. So that is what that button does. It copies all the stuff from the last year in, well, within certain limits, how they are applicable. And so that one button, one single press, is worth how many clicks? Let's have an auction. Who says 1,000? 2,000, anyone? There's one guy with 2,000 there. 4,000? 4,000, okay, but more? 8,000? Yes, there's a couple with 8,000. Is there anyone with 10,000? Yeah, I'd say you're pretty close. 10,000 clicks. One button. But I'm not here to say that I'm proud of this design. It even may not be my design. I work with a colleague, but definitely today, I'm not proud. Why is that? What went wrong? I mean, reducing 10,000 clicks to one should have been the height of my career. The problem is, I don't know a single person who has ever pressed that button. I don't know. I mean, they can be such people, but I don't know. And even worse, I don't know if it worked for them. I mean, if they pressed that, was it good? Did they think that this sucks? I don't know. And thus I have wrong pride. In my world today, I think of stuff as kind of, this Maslow hierarchy of things. It's good that things are designed. I mean, it's probably better if someone designed them than they just kind of appeared out of thin air. It's even better if someone implements them. And it's a good thing that if that implementation actually goes into production. Now, this is not so self-evident as you would think. And that previous software stopped right there. That is the last thing I know of it. But there are two levels which are much above that, and that is that they are used and that I would know what happened when they are used. I don't know. Why did things so go? Why did things go this wrong? It was done in a project. I mean, software projects. They just suck. Software projects are perhaps not inherently bad. I'm not saying you can't do good things in a project. But the problem is, they lead us to think in a certain way that is not very beneficial for the software. It's like this moon mission. To get the astronauts to the moon. Okay, what do you have to do? You have to do some planning, and then some, planning, and then there's the building of the rockets, then there's the execution of the thing. You kind of fly the astronauts to the moon and get them back alive, and then, woohoo, champagne, we did it. They're back on Earth. We have these fantastic photos to prove it. They were in the moon, just great. And it's done. But software is not like that. I mean, if you do a software project, you may have thought that the idea of a software project is to create a piece of software. You're wrong. If you are doing an accounting software, what's the point in the project? Well, hell yeah, it's do some accounting. And the software is just a tool for doing that. And if you think of that in the kind of context of getting the guys into the moon, well, the guys and girls these days, it's more like, and don't just kill me for this analogy, but just bear with me, it's more like you'd be planning a metro to the moon that would take people there every day. And that is totally different. But the project context tends to lead us to think in this way. So that it would kind of be a one-shot, and we just do the thing we do, and then the software is ready, and woohoo, champagne. But it doesn't work like that. What we should be doing is that we should be improving the stuff that the software enables us to improve. And that's different. So instead of doing things like this, I mean, when I came to Reactor, I kind of introduced this way of doing design systematically inside projects. So first you do field studies. I don't know if you know what field studies are, but basically they are that you go to see the users and see what they do. And then you do user interface design, and then you do more field studies and more user interface design, and you do this for a long time until you know that this is a good design. This will solve their problems. And then what do you do? I'm I'm not proud of this, but this is what we did. We did specification, and out of that you can build a product backlog, and out of that you can do implementation inside of loops, and woohoo, into production. Well, except it's like this. And then you get the software that I'm not proud of. So perhaps you think that okay, but many digital artifacts are in fact produced this way. So why can't software be? So it's like, take for example movies. You film a movie and then you launch it and then there's nothing you can do with it, right? It's one shot and they're still rather good. How many of you have seen Top Gun? Raise your hand, please. Great. Okay. Good. Now, do you remember this scene from Top Gun? Raise your hand if you remember. Okay, some, but this one. This scene from Top Gun. Do you remember this? You're just too shy. Because it's sex. Now the question is, let's take the previous slide for it. Why is Kelly McGillis wearing a baseball cap? That's one question. How many, by the way, you know why she's wearing a baseball cap? Okay, some of you do. I've told some of you. Okay? Next hard question is, why is the background in this scene tinted blue? No one. It's because of the same reason. You see, when they made Top Gun, and I believe this is the same with very many other Hollywood films, they made a film, and then what they did is they pre-screened it with an audience. And the audience thought that, okay, it's a fine film, but something is missing, something that had to do with the relationship building between the two characters that Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis are performing there. The only problem was that they had already filmed the whole shit. But okay, it wasn't released yet. So what did they do? Well, they booked Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis for one Saturday. They had just one Saturday to do all the rest stuff. And what they did, they filmed these two scenes. But the problem was that the Kelly McGillis was already doing another film, and she had hair which was tinted to a wrong color. So they had to put on a baseball cap to hide that, and they had to tint the background blue because it would not show there. And by the way, Tom Cruise is also having a bit too long hair for a kind of flyer guy, but anyway. So this tells you that it's not a one shot. You can and you should pre-screen, and other people are doing that as well. Hollywood does this, and it can't be that difficult. This takes us to incremental design, finally. So basically, it's about this. You have this kind of a waterfall. There's nothing wrong with this sequence of events, but you just have to do one thing. You have to kind of put an arrow back. And it's kind of, okay, it seems like, well, you just put an arrow back, then what's going to change? What's going to change? Everything is going to change. It's not a very innocent arrow. Because then, although this seems so trivial, I've just written some words on a piece of paper, and then you can see it there. You do things like you start with observing. This is the field of studies. You observe in person, people. Then you do some design, and then you evaluate that design, and then you implement it. This is just like it was before. And then you deploy it, meaning you put it into production. But then you start to watch for signals. Now this means this is new, and you have to do something you didn't do before. you have to know what you actually are watching. And if you think that's trivial, I hope you were in Simo Ahava's presentation yesterday, because it's not trivial at all. And if you just think that you can just plug in Google Analytics, I think you should go and talk to Simo. It's not the thing you should do. What you should do is you should think about what are the things that you can see from the people's behavior, from the software logs and whatever automatic tools you have that tell you how they are doing. Is your software being used? Are the features being used in the way you thought they would be? And then when you kind of find anomalies, well, what do? You go back to the users and then find out what's going on. Now this may seem trivial, but it has some kind of very nice effects on what you're doing. I tried actually with my colleagues about 1 year ago, tried to draw a picture of how this thing goes. And it turned out that it's much more easy to show on a backlog level what this means in practice. So I'm going to take another project. This is about kind of tying construction workers to a company that hires them, and there's a company in the middle who kind of acts as a proxy, so that the construction workers need to make a contract. There's a kind of contract between three parties. There's the workers, the construction site, and this proxy company which acts in between. And what we did there is we kind of tried this way of doing things incrementally. We tried it out, and let's see how it affects the backlog. This is an initial backlog. We knew that the first thing we have to do, you have to have some kind of a contract there between these three parties, so we just start coding this, and then there are other things that we thought that, okay, those are essential. Those will come next. We were wrong. Not a surprise, because by the time we had actually implemented that first thing, we already had kind of walked around in the offices of the people who would be the future users, and we knew that in order to increase the usage of the software, we should actually do the item number 5, different contract terms, so that because they had different types of contracts, so it would be much easier to kind of do this first and then continue with the other things. And, well, for a great surprise, we actually did this company-specific prices, but by the time we did it, we already knew that, okay, but again, if we want to increase more the use of this software, we should do these percent prices, because that blocked, again, some users from doing their work. So that was scheduled next. And when we did the percent price we had the company-specific prices in production, and then we noticed that, okay, now they don't understand why they can't change the price, so we just have to have a tooltip. We'll do that next, but we'll do this first. And then there was this, while we were kind of investigating this, then we noticed that there's going to be a need for navigating to the latest contract, because that was kind of essential when you kind of had a worker who had been working on a previous site. And then the question was, well, what was his salary over there? I have to have it for this contract. So this is important. We didn't have this before. And so it goes on. For example, this point, who are free in a couple of days? This came from the fact that for the first time now, notice the software is all the time in the production, they used it. And they said, oh, yeah, this is a fantastic piece of software, thank you. But now that we have all the people over here, it would be very nice to know that who are actually not free as of yesterday, but who are going to be free, say, tomorrow or on Friday, because we're not in a hurry, or next week. Because if we'd know that, we would kind of make the deal already beforehand, and they would just leave that site and go straight to the other, and they'll be happy and we'll be happy and everyone's going to be happy. So let's do this. And so on it goes. We have 2 backlogs. They're not the same. They are new items that we did that we didn't know we do, good thing. They needed those. And then we had stuff that we knew that, or well, we thought we knew, well, kind of knew, that they would be needing, and we did those too, but in a different order. And this is the thing. I definitely am not going to say that design is guessing. At least, if you work design with me, I'd be a bit insulted if you'd say that my design is guessing, because it's based on the field of studies. It's based on real people's work. But that doesn't take away the fact that design is filled with assumptions. And some of those assumptions are just wrong. It actually turned out that of those features that we had in the initial backlog, they weren't that wrong. We just did them, but perhaps some of them were done a half year later. But that was the first time when they were needed. There would have been no point doing them before that. So how does this affect? I said it changes everything. And it does. I truly believe this. Because it changes the way, for example, if I look from my point of view, how my work is done in a project, the previous one where you just have the waterfall, there's a place for me. I design at this phase, and then I give out the specification, and bye-bye, next project. Can't do it anymore. Because there's one thing that is in the implementation phase. There's something that is already put out into production that I need to watch how they are doing. I need to go to see the users, how they kind of are managing with the software there. And I need to do design. And each day, the question is, what shall I do first? And what is after that? But this is totally different. There's kind of, if you just thought that you can kind of go into your cubicle and do some design for the whole day, perhaps you can, perhaps you can't. There are pretty many things you have to do at the same time. A surprising lesson that we learned is that this is not for everyone. Because now this means that you are putting out there something that is final, well, but not as final as you'd want to. But it's final for now. It is as final as it gets. And not all people can stand this. We had a member in our team who was pretty much like a perfectionist, liked to kind of do things very, very well before he was kind of sure that he can just put them out. And that turned out to be very difficult. That person slowed us down. Because you don't have the luxury of doing that. You just have to get shit out and then see how it's doing. And if it's good enough, you get a second chance. And if it sucks on the first chance, well, why did you kind of put the feng shui in the code or in the design or on the graphics? This just was wrong. I'd say the biggest risk is overdoing. If you think of some lean startup terms, there's the MVP. The biggest risk you are facing is that you're doing the VP instead of the MP. It's better to be minimal, to do a bit under, than do over. Because everything you do over the limit is waste. I've been running my own little experiments with this. It's rather interesting. I'm actually responsible for a software inside Reactor, that our R-sheet application, and I sometimes get requests that some party needs something. And these days, what I do is I know that what they would actually need, what would be the 100%. And I give them about 85. And then I wait and see what happens. And if there's no noise, that was sufficient. You know, I did this. Of this I am actually proud. I did this this May. I got a request from our HR department that what if you could do for the hour sheet application that people would kind of enter their vacation time there before they leave on the vacation. So I was a bit in a hurry, and I had about 2 days' time, so I just slapped something on together and put it into production. And with that software, what you could do is you could just kind of select from the calendar the time that you're on a vacation, and then press that add, and then it added that vacation, but then you could not change it, you could not delete it, you couldn't do anything with it. If you wanted to do that, you had to go to the actual outsheet application, do some pretty heavy stuff there. But that was sufficient. Only after the summer I got this one contact from one of my colleagues saying, hey, Karri, you know, this is a bit weird. You can't even delete this. I made a mistake. How am I going to delete my vacation here? I said, well, you go to the outsheet application. He said, well, it's a bit, you know, it's a bit kind of more work than I would have expected. Okay, seems like I need to expand it a bit. You should wait for this. You should wait for these things to happen. Because otherwise you don't know if they're ever used for anything. I've always thought that the role of design in a project is to explore, is to find out that what could be done, and then it's kind of coloring the map. First, when you start a software project, you don't know where to go. It's a blank map. And who goes there first? Well, if you hire me, I'm going to go there first. I love that. Find out how it's going to work. But then this kind of doing incrementally actually means that exploration is sometimes going to actually yield in something that you find directions where you are not going to go. And you have to be fine with that. It's just that, okay, it's nice to know, but we're not going to do that. Sometimes it hurts, pretty much. But you live. And last thing is that if you do design incrementally, it gives you these new possibilities of being wrong. You can take the wrong turn, and then you are in the dead end. And these are new possibilities to be wrong. I mean, I hope that as a designer, as a programmer, or whatever, you are very willing to be wrong, because that means that you kind of test things, evaluate them with users, whatever you do. But this thing, if you launch them out, that gives you new ways of being wrong. An example would be handy right now. In the project where I was, the construction site project, I heard from my colleagues that they did this feature later on, that there were these tags for the job applicants, and you could do a search based on tags. And you could actually do a job application, meaning that you want someone to fill this job, and you put in all the tags. That worked just fine until it was tried in IT. I guess you can know why, because if you want a programmer, they need to know Fortran, Perl, C++, Java, PostScript, or just all these new cloud things and all that kind of stuff. Or we are in hope of finding someone like this. But the search, was an and search. So you kind of didn't have any applicants, because no one knew those. But since this was something that you couldn't know beforehand that the users would use it this way, great. So what's going to happen? You get the signal that something's wrong, you go and talk with them, notice this is what's wrong, you fix it. So that it's like OR, which lists first the applicants that match most of those criteria. Woohoo! It's better. And this is what happens. You get new ways of being wrong, that means new ways of learning, new ways of improving. It's a good thing. If I like to try to coin you why you should do this, why you should launch the stuff out, it's something like this, that your design, when you have it in the lab or on your desk or at your office, it's safe. It's like in a nest. But what you need to do is you need to put it out in the internet where the dark creatures lurk, see how it performs, see how it works, learn, take it back, improve, and put it back again. And if you do that, you have a reason to be proud very soon for the right reasons. Thanks.